What's up guys, Spartan here, and welcome to another tutorial episode on Forge Room. Today's tutorial will be again focusing on scatter terrain. The last video tutorial we did was focused on traversable urban buildings, and today will be focused on obstacles in the form of settlement houses and structures. Without wasting any more time, let's jump into the first building. Alright, so the Gable House. This one is a super simple one intended for just being scattered around the map to fill in space and look pretty. The Gable House is a simple house constructed of two 4x4 tall blocks with four 2x2 ramps on the top of each of those blocks. If you wanted to, you could literally stop there and you would have it. You could even cut it in half if you wanted it to be smaller. But I want to give you some ideas of things you could do to try and make it feel more alive, assuming your budget allows for it. Firstly, I'm going to add a door single and a wall to create a locked entrance kind of visual. After that, I'm going to create the door steps with a couple of block singles, then a cover from the decorative tab for the door overhang, some railings for gutters now. Next, a simple chimney using a column or a 1x4 or even a 1x1 tall and thin would work. Another idea is to take multiple gables and connect them together to create L houses, T houses, or just longer or even taller houses. This design works best for small scatter villages, but have the drawback of infantry not being able to interact with the interiors, leaving them kind of exposed. Oh, and yes, this design can be recreated in every Halo game with a Forge mode, including Halo 3. The only catch with Halo 3 is you will have to get a little creative with the doorway and decorative features, since I don't recall Halo 3 having much in the form of decorative structure pieces. Alright, the generator house. A lot of these settlements would have a central power bank or powerhouse for supplying power to the village, colony, or whatever it is that they want to call it. The building is intended to have an interactable interior, so it will have a slightly more expensive budget than the Gable. The first step is to create a base for the building using two 4x4 talls. Then, add four single walls to each corner, all facing the same direction, like so. After that, cap off the walls with two 4x4 flats on each side. Then you'll need four steep ramps. Place them on top of the building for a roof, and for this particular situation, I used another 4x4 tall to fill in the space. Now, you can do your roofs however you wanted to, but this was just an example of a roof that I kind of thought of doing, just spur of the moment, to kind of give it a unique feeling, and not just keep doing gable, triangle-shaped roofs over and over again. Next, you're going to want to get two 2x2 ramps to use for the ramps into the building, so that way people can just walk in and they don't have to jump onto the platform every time they approach the building. Now that the main structure is complete, it's time to distinguish it from the others. On its own, the building doesn't service infantry very well in terms of protection from vehicles, so if you have the budget for it, drop a couple shield doors to each side of the building. It makes sense, kind of, since they'd almost be acting like radiation shielding from the generator technology inside of the generator house or something sci-fi like that. After that, feel free to actually add the generator. For Halo Reach, I used a few engine racks and things that were added with the new MCC Forge mode, and I also added a few shelving units using railings and put things like weapons, cones, monitors, explosives all around the room to kind of liven it up a bit. The building works good as a spawn room or an objective room, but can also mesh well with the terrain around it as just another building. And since every settlement can never have too much power, feel free to place this one around as often as you want. You can have anywhere from just one of these buildings to like up to four if you really felt like it. This is also recreatable in every Halo game, except you need to get a lot more creative with Halo 3's generator objects. Like I said, there's going to be some things you can get away with in Halo 3, but a lot of it is going to be very difficult, and shield doors in Halo 3 operate very differently from how they do in the other games. The shield doors in Halo 3 repel vehicles, versus the ones in Reach and 4 do not. Alright, moving on to the barn house. This one is super simple and can be used for a variety of things like vehicle spawns, flag spawns, and more. Okay, so it's not the most simple, but the base structure outline is fairly simple. The barn house consists of four 4x4 talls in a square formation for the foundation. Then, four 4x4 flats make up the walls. After that, create a 1x4 tall for each corner to place inside the structure, but centered on the corner so that it juts out on the inside as well as the outside. Then add some supplemental 1x1 blocks where necessary to make up for any gaps in the floor. For the roof, there's several methods to approach this. You could just place a couple 4x4 flats or 2x2 ramps to cover the roof, but for me that's a little bland. I wanted the barn house to stand out and be identifiable from afar. So pretty much all I did was I just took some of the large circular ramps in the incline section and I cranked them 90 degrees. And I added some rotation variety to them to make them kind of feel a little bit more organic. I get that it's a little off-putting to see this structure just kind of shifted 90 degrees and forced into place, but there really isn't much of another solution for such a low budget to really make this work. There are other solutions, but this is the particular one that I wanted to use. To cap off the ends, I used 2 half dishes, but as you'll see in the end of this particular building tutorial, I do delete them because I think they look absolutely ugly. From there, the barn house itself is finished, but as always, I wasn't done there. I added several ramps, rafters, and catwalks inside of the barn to give it some verticality and accessibility. Then I used small circular ramps to create the silo and attach it to the side. After that, I capped off the silo with more small circular ramps interlapped with each other on their sides. It is jank, but it is a simple and versatile enough design that I felt like I needed to share it, because oftentimes domes can look really cool, but this is the only solution I've found to it so far. With some modifications too, you could easily reshape this building into a more warehouse-like structure, and this one also works in everything except Halo 3. Once again, it's not Halo 3's fault, it's the oldest and most primitive iteration of Forge, but it's the grandfather of the game mode. Besides, I don't think a barn would look good on Sandbox or Foundry anyways, so you really shouldn't be using the structure there. On to the final one, or final ones, landing pad. A lot of remote settlements and encampments are lost in desolate and hostile wastelands and can only be reached safely by aircraft. Because of this, our settlers and colonists will need a landing pad for their supply ships and transports. The building is the simplest of the lot, but has a lot in terms of actual parts. You'll just need a wall coliseum, 2 slope platforms, a couple railings, and a whole lot of columns and blocks for supports. Just kidding, it's not a lot, but you'll see what I mean. To start, place your wall coliseum on its side, roughly 3 to 5 coordinate units above the ground. If you feel like the wall coliseum might be too big for what you might need, then feel free to replace it with either 4 5x5 flats butted up against each other, or just a standard landing pad. For demonstration purposes, I'll be operating with all 3 of these examples. This demo is directed more towards the scaffolding and structure below the pad rather than the pad itself. From there, place a 1x4 block under each corner of the platform. For the 5x5 flats and Coliseum, place 1 or 2 in the middle sections too to kind of give it that center support. Try to form a grid beneath the landing pad that is symmetrical. After that, go 1 entire unit down the legs around the midsection and add the cross section here. From there, add some columns and flat types to create weaving scaffolding. Each column is about 1 unit tall, so it would be pretty taxing to just use columns for this. Feel free to add some 1x1 talls and other decorative pieces like braces to make the process easier on your Forge budget. Like for the Coliseum pad, for example here, I just used a brace tunnel from the decorative section and cranked it 45 degrees and planted it in the ground, so that way the stems on the top, I don't know what to call them, just kind of jut out and kind of look like supports. It really does work. From here, feel free to add any ramps or gravity lifts you want to reach the pad. You could even design the map's vertical dynamics around the platform itself. Now that you have your platform, feel free to add any scenery you want to add to maybe cover up and add some cover and concealment. Prop vehicles, wreckages, crates, and machinery are all good options. If you look here, I've actually made a couple of examples for you to take a look at as well. This piece is achievable in every game except Halo 3. Of course, it's because wall coliseums don't exist in Halo 3, neither do 5x5 flats, and neither do the landing pads. However, there are certain flat blocks that are available, and you could also use wall doubles. And with Halo 3's new addition to the phased, fixed, and normal system, you could place them however you want and make pads as big as you would like. So it is doable, it just isn't optimal. Now that's about all I have for this tutorial, but wait, there's more. I have made 4 individual maps using all of these designs to the best of my ability, kind of like how I did with Depot in my first tutorial. Each one uses the same template structures shown today, but are unique and operate differently from one another. The one in Halo 4 is a big team battle map, Halo 2 Anniversaries is a King of the Hill, Halo Reaches is for Infection, and Halo 3's is for Team Slayer or Free-for-All Slayer. All of these will be available under my file share on the MCC. A reminder that my gamertag is Kilo Sierra 975 as seen on screen. Feel free to grab the maps at any point and give them a try. Thanks for watching, stay tuned for those individual maps in the coming weeks, grind your weekly challenges, and I'll see y'all later.